Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to bridge a gap that I know is absolutely infuriating for so many language learners out there. I'm talking about that weird, frustrating space between having textbook-accurate grammar and actually sounding like a fluent, natural English speaker. Have you ever constructed a perfectly grammatical sentence in your head, said it out loud, and then the native speaker just gives you this slightly puzzled look? Yeah, we've all been there. That happens because fluency isn't just about rigidly following rules. It's about understanding the psychology of the language and the habitual, sometimes quirky ways that words just stick together. So by the end of our time today, we're going to give you the precise blueprints you need to actually sound, and honestly, to feel entirely natural in English.
Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today to see how we're going to break down these secret mechanics of communication. We're kicking things off with cause versus experience. Then we'll dive into the grammar of hindsight. After that, we'll decode words that go together, and we'll wrap it all up with fluent conversational phrases. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, Cause versus Experience.
We're going to begin with a massive empathy shift in language. We really need to unpack one of the most reliable, classic sources of error, especially for B1 and B2 learners. Mixing up these two tiny little forms changes your intention entirely. Imagine you're at a super dull party and you want to complain to your friend. If you say, "I am boring," you're literally telling everyone around you that you make people fall asleep. You're completely insulting yourself. But if you say, "I am bored," well, now you're accurately describing your own internal state. The difference is absolutely huge, right?
So here is the crucial takeaway, the golden rule right here. The ing form describes the outward cause, while the ed form describes the inward experience. Think of it like this. A task is exhausting, that's the cause. But the person doing that task is exhausted, that is the experience. Or say there's a new procedure at work that is confusing. Well, the person trying to follow it feels confused. The ing adjective belongs to the situation, while the ed adjective always belongs to the person experiencing it.
So whenever you're about to speak, I want you to keep this really simple litmus test in mind. Just ask yourself, am I describing a feeling I have or a quality something else has? If you're talking about yourself, you almost always need that ed ending. But if you're talking about a film, the news, or situation, you use ing. For example, a documentary can be disturbing, and as a result, you are disturbed by it. They both tell the exact same story, just from two completely different angles.
Moving right along to Section 2, the grammar of hindsight.
Let's see how these ideas build into concepts dealing with regret and reflection. Think about it for a second. How exactly do you talk about a missed opportunity? When we want to imagine alternative pasts that never actually happened, like, say, a missed job opportunity or a totally avoidable mistake on a contract, we rely entirely on the third conditional. It is, quite literally, the grammar of hindsight. And this brilliantly illustrates the fixed formula you need to construct these kinds of thoughts. Check out these steps. First, your if clause takes the past perfect. Second, your main clause takes would, could, or might have. And third, you finish it off with the past participle. So it sounds exactly like this. If she had prepared, she would have got the job. Now, the preparation didn't happen, and the job offer didn't happen. We're living entirely in an imagined alternative past. But oh man, here is where things go wrong so often. A super common trap for language learners is shoving would have into the if clause itself. You'll hear people say things like, if she would have prepared. But standard English strictly forbids this. Actually, scratch that. It doesn't just forbid it. It sounds incredibly clunky to a native ear. The if clause requires the past perfect. It absolutely must be if she had prepared. The would, could, or might belongs strictly over in the main clause. Now, looking at that main clause, you can easily change the whole shade of meaning in your sentence just by swapping out those three modal verbs. Would have gives you a very confident, totally certain imagined outcome, like she would have got the job. Could have, on the other hand, just implies a possibility, while might have introduces a distinct, heavy degree of uncertainty. And what's really great about this structure is you can actually flip the order of the two clauses without changing the meaning even a little bit. Just remember, if your if clause comes second, you drop the comma. Simple as that. All right, let's jump into Section 3, words that go together. Now, we're examining a truly fascinating area of fluency, why direct, word-for-word dictionary translations so often fail us. It's all due to the magnetism of words. These habitual pairings are what linguists call collocations, and getting these right is exactly what separates accurate English from fluent English. Just look at the top row here. In English, service refers to the care you receive, like in a restaurant.
A serving is literally just a physical portion of food. So if you say the serving was terrible when you actually mean the waiter was slow, it's a dead giveaway that you're translating directly from your native language. It's the same with the others. You don't write a big review, you write a long one. You don't meet in face-to-face, you meet in person. And you definitely don't make a review on a website, you leave a review, much like you leave a tip.
Let's look at a really common workplace example. If your boss gives you some tough feedback, do you accept criticism or do you take criticism? While accept criticism is technically understandable and grammatically fine, take criticism is far more idiomatic. It just sounds so much more natural in everyday professional English. You take it well, you take it badly, or you take it on board.
And speaking of the workplace, using precise pairings like area of responsibility instead of some vague expression is exactly the kind of thing you're going to encounter in real-world job descriptions and high-level team meetings. It sounds precise, it sounds professional, and most importantly, it sounds entirely native.
Which brings us to our final section, fluent conversational phrases.
Let's explore the exact phrases that fluent speakers use, almost like secret handshakes, to navigate complex social situations. Believe me, small changes matter immensely here. Saying, I can't agree more is perfectly understandable, sure. But I couldn't agree more is the fixed form in standard British and American English. It uses that past tense, couldn't, to provide an emphatic, slightly formal warmth of complete, undeniable agreement. It is literally the perfect phrase to drop in an interview or professional discussion.
Now, here's a phrase that is fundamentally all about respect: to hear someone out. You'll very often hear this used as a request for patience, like, please just hear me out. A speaker uses this when they have something really important, or perhaps highly unexpected, to share with you. They're basically asking you to suspend your judgment and hold your response until they have completely finished their thought. These specific phrases function as fixed units, capturing incredibly nuanced social dynamics that literal translations completely miss the mark on. Take to be taken seriously. That's often used in the passive voice when someone has been previously dismissed or overlooked, and they're demanding their credibility be recognized. Deal with isn't for simple tasks, you know? It implies handling something that requires real patience and heavy effort, like a difficult colleague or a really stressful situation. And feel at home, wow, that beautifully captures the slow, psychological process of becoming comfortable in a new environment, a new job, or a new country. It has a warmth that simply saying, I feel comfortable, completely lacks.
Ultimately, understanding the logic behind these pairings, these conditional formulas, and these psychological grammar rules transforms them from dry, boring textbook exercises into a fascinating toolkit. You're not just memorizing rules anymore. You are learning how native speakers package their reality, their regrets, and their respect for one another. It's a game changer. So now that you have the blueprint, it's time to actually put it to the test. Knowing the deep intention behind these structures, what exact phrasing will you consciously change today to finally sound and, more importantly, feel at home in English? Pick just one, test it out, and watch how it shifts the way you connect with others. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.